Ooh, that was a nice crack. Crack. Okay, crap. I'm recording now. Hello. Welcome to Life is a Joke, and I'm the Punchline, featuring me, the inside joke. Um, we are going to try a little bit better about, you know, maybe the quality of the stuff that I upload here. So, thus the background, thus an actual microphone so I can talk and not have to try to up the audio and then screw everything. I'm just gonna. When we talk about unmasking ourselves or just trying to figure out who we are as somebody who might have neurodivergencies, whether it's ADHD, autism, the Australian ADHD, Aldi ADHD, good eye mate, or anything else, it's really hard for us to unmask and then really deal with what we find. Because when I ended up unmasking, when I came to these solutions or conclusions that I had autism, ADHD, CPTSD, all these things, right? Nothing changed, but everything made sense to me. So if you've ever gone through late diagnosis as somebody who might have ADHD, AuDHD, or some other type of form of neurodivergence, you might know exactly what I mean by that. Because the moment you start learning about it, something strange begins to happen. You're in life, your entire life just begins to replay itself in your mind. Moments that you forgot about that never made sense when you were a kid or younger, social situations where you felt like you were just an alien trying to be a human. Because it's like everybody else is able to click in and like just almost have this silent understanding of everything that they're supposed to know. And you're just standing there like, am I eating this popsicle wrong? Like you just don't know what. And then you just realize, oh, that's why. But the thing is, you realize so much later. So, like growing up, I really never clicked with other kids. Not in a way that seemed effortless to everybody else growing up. Like they just seemed like, you're a kid and you have a bike. Let's just be friends. We can be bike friends. I was like the misfit of the misfits. Birds of a feather do flock together. So somehow I always seemed to be that bird that didn't quite match the flock. I was the blue jay hanging out with the cardinals. You know, hey, we're all birds, man. We're all birds. I just, I'm just different. Even as an adult, friendship has always been very hard for me because a lot of people with ADHD struggle with this. There's this neurological reason behind it. You see, ADHD people have something called out of sight, out of mind. If somebody isn't or something isn't physically present to remind me in my daily environment, it's incredibly easy for my brain to lose track of that connection. Think of it like I will remember to everything that I have a thread connected to. If I let go of the thread, I let go of the connection, I let go of the memory, the whatever, the responsibility, and then it's just gone. I have to find that thread again, or I find out that the thing that I was supposed to, you know, get to later, well, it's fallen apart. Whoops, can't help it. Lost the thread. So if somebody isn't physically present in my life that I work with often, it's so very easy for me to lose that thread because it's not that I don't care. It's just that my brain is already juggling so many things at once. When you have autism and ADHD, you have two people constantly basically in your mind fighting it out for control on how you go about your day, your life, how you live your life. And it's almost like that cognitive overload. You're already juggling like six different things for you to try to actively remember the people and the things and the relationships, whatever it is that you forgot. It's like you're juggling those six different things, actively looking for a seventh while juggling still. So it's not like, oh, I'll just pick this other thing up and no, it's like I'm juggling everything with one hand right now while I'm looking through the sock drawer to see where the heck I put that thread because I'm pretty sure that I had plans with somebody and I've completely forgot. My wife sets alarms for everything and does everything in her calendar, and I understand why. She is a very smart and wise woman. So, to any of my friends out there who haven't heard from me for quite a while and think that I have probably been presumed dead, hi, I love you and I'm sorry. Now, eventually, I've started to try to study and understand myself, and I've spent months into years researching. First, it started through memes, ironically enough, and then it was psychology books like the DSM 5. Eventually, I got clinically diagnosed with ADHD and a few other things. And you would think that that would bring you clarity. But something strange happened yet again. The more solid every diagnosis became, the less of me there seemed to be. I started to feel like my entire personality was just a list of symptoms. And that is enough to set you up for a very big identity crisis. Um, because if you personally think about, okay, because if your personality is basically just overlapping traits of neurodivergence, who are you? It really felt like something inside of me died. Not physically, just psychologically. Um, some people call this ego death. Jim Carrey once said that depression is the soul begging for a deep rest, and deep rest from the character that you're trying to play. Ironically, the man who played the mask may have given one of the best metaphors or illustrations for what it's like to mask and what masking is like. Because masking is something many of us neurodivergent people do to survive socially. It's to hide your natural behaviors, your reaction, your needs in order to appear normal, like everybody else. The thing about masking is if you do it long enough, you start to lose who you think you are for if you mask long enough, you start to lose track of where the mask ends and where you actually begin. What really is you? Who really are you? You keep setting yourself on fire to keep people warm, and then eventually the only thing that's left is smoke. Just an appearance of somebody who once was there. When I realized that I had been masking most of my life, it triggered a lot of deep thinking for sure. Um, I've had a lot of very hard moments through my life. And going through this process of deep thinking about asking why about just about everything about myself has taken me to very, very dark places in terms of the darkness that a person can experience. Um, in terms of like deep, deep, deep depression. We're talking about suicidal ideations. Like I've seen the void. I have spoken to it, if you know what I mean. Um, that's a place that a lot of people don't come back from, or some people call this stage the dark night of the soul. It feels like you're dying in front of everybody that you know slowly, but you can't explain what's happening because that transformation is so deeply personal. It doesn't make sense to anybody else. The version that you have built to yourself to survive the world is now collapsing in on itself. And that very easily can lead to destruction or transformation. But the thing about transformation is that it always looks like destruction first. So if you find yourself in that place asking, who am I now? I want to share a few things that have helped me find peace. First, if you suddenly feel like a fraud in parts of your life, good. That's a good thing. That's information that you're getting from yourself. It's an invitation to examine your life more honestly. Look at your relationships. Ask yourself, am I showing up as my authentic self here? Are they even meeting me halfway? If I would stop watering this plant, would it die, so to speak? Because sometimes when you start unmasking, you'll discover something important. Anything that leaves you for being real, for being who you really are, was never real to begin with. And that can hurt. It can be, but it can also be very freeing. So you might feel like you've been beaten up pretty bad by this point in life, like a bread pan that has a bunch of dents in the side. It's almost like you can never make perfect bread ever again. Those dents are always permanently there. And you could look at that as your trauma. You could look at that as your neurodivergencies or whatever you might be dealing with in life. You know, the cards life dealt you, for example. But the thing is, no matter what you bake in that pan, the bread will always have those dents. And that's something that we can just accept as a reality. Accepting is a form of surrendering to allow yourself new and better experiences. Think of it like that. So, those imperfections are always going to be there in your life, but you still get to choose the ingredients, your values, your integrity, your compassion, the way that you treat yourself and others. That's up to you. Those things matter far more than what the shape of the loaf looks like. Shape of the loaf. Another powerful shift is understanding that your identity is what you commit to. Yes, your brain processes the world differently, but the meaning that you build from that experience comes from your values. For example, a forgiving person does not carry anger anywhere, but somebody who's healed from trauma also understands the importance of boundaries. Both can exist together. Being kind does not mean that you just forgive everybody, everything, and you allow yourself to be taken advantage of. Mm-mm. You're going to find that the healed version of yourself is actually pretty mean because it's standing up for the version of you that never got stood up for. That doesn't sound right. The healed version of you is very mean. I'm trying. I'm trying like the flying Hawaiian. What you're going to find is the healed version of yourself is actually pretty mean because it's standing up for the version of you that always got taken advantage of. You get to decide what kind of person that you will become moving forward. And that brings me to one of the hardest parts of late diagnosis: grief. The question that haunts so many people is this: who would I have been if I knew this sooner? I've asked my question. I've asked myself that question so many times, and I think it would have definitely made my life easier. I would have enjoyed life more, taken things a lot less seriously because it's out of my control. I would have formed probably genuine connections a lot earlier because I would have just been my genuine self. Instead of constantly worrying and trying to perform a version of myself that I thought others wanted, I could have actually just been myself to attract the people who actually fit in my life. But here's the truth: you can't change the past, but you can change the diet that you feed your mind today. Now, you've probably spent years feeding yourself criticism, shame, and self hatred. Don't keep feeding yourself that. You have the power to change what you consume mentally and internally. And here's the other hard truth: the only person capable of loving you in the most complete and intimate way that you need is yourself. It doesn't mean isolation, it means self responsibility for your own compassion. Because if being hard on yourself actually worked, it would have worked by now, wouldn't it? Or maybe the problem really is that you're so bad at being negative on yourself, or maybe you're just so bad at being hard on yourself. So you might as well try the other way. Maybe you're too good at bullying yourself and pushing yourself down. You ever think of that? Maybe you aren't so good at something because you're actually a professional bully to yourself. Stop being the bully of your own story. Treat yourself the way the younger version of you should have been treated: with patience, with curiosity, with understanding. So, one thing that has helped me is shifting the question. So, instead of asking, why didn't I know sooner? I started asking, what do I understand about myself now than I never did before? And that's when something beautiful starts to happen. You realize you're not discovering something new, you're actually remembering who you've always been. Then you're going to deal with anger, grief, the depression, the shadow parts of yourself. A lot of this comes from self betrayal. from ignoring who you were in order to survive environments that did not understand you. And the biggest obstacle for me was the process of grief because I mourned the years that I thought I had wasted. But what I've come to learn is that grief is like a coin. You can't really see. There we go. Grief is like a coin, right? But the other side of that coin is gratitude. Now, gratitude is the practice of recognizing the positive things or parts of life. Scientifically, they say it lowers cortisol, reduces depression, and improves overall well being. You can practice it in small ways, like a journal when you write thank you notes, um, acknowledging the people who matter in your life, even if it's just to yourself, but especially to them. Or it's just simply noticing when something good happens in your life. And if self love feels way too radical right now, that's okay. Start smaller. Maybe stop saying the worst things about yourselves. Silence the inner critic first, and then you make room for growth. You see, a gardener doesn't force flowers to grow, they remove what prevents it. So remove the weeds, remove the self hatred, the shame, the constant criticism, and give yourself the space to grow into the person that you were always meant to be. Because the truth is, you were never broken, you were very much misunderstood. And now that you can understand that about yourself, you finally have the chance to live as the person that you were always meant to be. And the beautiful thing is, the choice is yours.